Hello, this is Eris ASMR. My plan for my first real video, I guess it could be considered, is to read to you a bit from a book I have. I've had this book for years and I've got it signed by someone who worked on the project that this book was from. I don't know if anybody who will watch this video watches or listens to podcasts, but one of the first podcasts that really got me into that whole idea there was called Welcome to Night Vale. It's a very out there podcast, I guess you could consider it. But I figured I can do some page turning from it for you guys and do some soft reading. As strange as some of the sentences might be, but I find something really unique and wonderful about how everything's phrased and the sort of oddity of the entire idea. This book it's called Mostly Void, Partially Stars. It is the first volume of the episode log, I guess it could be considered. It was created by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner. They have now an entire podcast network with multiple podcasts under their belt, a few of which I've listened to, but as I found more podcasts that are more to my taste, I've kind of faded off, unfortunately. But it has a good number of episodes. I will check real quick to see which specific ones. I've never really been big on doing my nails, so I unfortunately can't give you guys that acrylic nail tapping sound, but I do keep my nails really short for work, but I don't mind them shorted. Having them long honestly kind of bothers me. Hopefully the finger tapping sounds are okay. Like I said in my intro, I'm just doing my best. You all will have to bear with me a bit while I get used to the atmosphere that you have to be in for ASMR, and also the confidence that you do kind of need. I'm not a terribly confident person, but you need to be kind of like a soothing voice to people when they need it. I believe I'm now on the table of contents, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I have to flip a page here now. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19A, 19B, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, a total of 25 episodes. Well, 26 because there's a two-parter in there. And then there's also a live show that they put in here as well. So that makes 27 episodes. And I will read you a bit of the foreword, I think, first, and then I can skip ahead to some of the more interesting dialogue from the oh my gosh, I've forgotten the name. The episodes? I think that's it, yes. I will do my best not to make any loud noises, although I do have to move the mic a bit, unfortunately. Hopefully that doesn't sound too bad on the audio log. I still don't know whether I'm going to try and how these are going to be edited, if I will amplify it a bit, but I do worry about the computer fan, although I know some people do really enjoy that white noise. I unfortunately am the type who does not, so it's hard to be my own judge, essentially. I will now read. The foreword is labeled "The Rare, Good Kind of Weird." Being weird and funny is easy. Being weird and funny and compelling is hard. We've all guffawed at some strange, surreal juxtaposition. 2, 1 to take. I wish I was better at reading ahead so it didn't sound quite as awkward. I will skip this bit because it is very late and my brain is a bit of mush and I can't comprehend it. Sorry. You don't have to be stoned to crack up at You don't have to be stoned to crack up at a friend's fantastic, perfect non sequitur. Stories that inspire hilarity and mystification are good fun, but they're not great stories. Stories become great by hacking your brain. Nothing that happens in fiction matters. The people in fiction are fictional, so their triumphs and tragedies have literally no consequence. The death of the yogurt you doomed to a fiery death in your gut acid this morning is infinitely more tragic than the deaths of Romeo and Juliet. The yogurt was alive and then it died. Romeo and Juliet never lived in the first place. Stories trick your naive, empathetic mind into resonating in sympathy, literally, with the plights of their imaginary people. Usually they do this by scrumptiously? I can't tell if this is a word. I'm usually pretty good about telling if things are words. But unfortunately, this is Welcome to Night Vale, and they're kind of known for being very weird, so I have no judge. By scrumptiously avoiding any reminder that these are all imaginary people, that willing suspension of disbelief is a bargain between the creator and the audience. The creator tells the tale and hews to something that is plausible, or at least consistent. And the audience member doesn't pinch herself and say, "Cut it out with the quickened heart, the leaking tears, the smiles of triumph, you dope, this is all made up." I think that's a very good sentiment to have about things. All stories that are told aren't just stories. While obviously it should be, I don't know, I've lost my train of thought a bit, but I find it really enjoyable to see how stories, just fake things made up, can have such emotional impact on people. I know myself, one of my favorite podcasts currently is The Adventure Zone, which is a tabletop role-playing game created by the McElroy brothers with the help of their dad as well. And I have cried multiple times listening to this podcast at certain points. They're extremely funny people and very wonderful people, but they also have a bit of artistry in them, in that they can create these wild, expansive stories that can move people, despite the fact that none of the characters they portray are real, none of anything going on in their stories is real. But it's a wonderful thing, honestly. I will do some page flipping. I think that's what most people enjoy. And I will read to you part of an episode, an excerpt. That was the word I was looking for earlier. An excerpt. I'll flip to a random episode. I think I've listened to all of these episodes. I unfortunately did fade off the original show. I want to say around episode 70 or 80. I think it might have been 80 something. And now I think it's in like 120 or maybe 140. They've done a lot. Unfortunately, it feels a bit overwhelming, too much for me to catch up, but these early episodes were very memorable for me, and it was, I have to say, a pretty lovely experience for getting into podcasts as a whole. I really like listening to podcasts when I'm at work. I have about a 25-minute commute in the morning and then a 45-minute from home because of rush hour. But that takes a little allotment of time to me get through about a podcast an episode, depending on what I'm listening to. If it's the Adventure Zone, it's usually a bit longer. I also have a Minecraft podcast that I really enjoy listening to. It's very informative. I think those are my main two podcasts right now. I also have some other smaller podcasts that I like to listen to, but I like to rotate them out because sometimes your brain gets a bit tired of the same thing. Let me find a good excerpt here. The Lights in Radon Canyon, that was a good episode. The Pyramid was also a good episode. I think I'm going to take an excerpt. I sometimes fluff my words a bit. From when I think it was episode 2. Here we are. Glow Cloud. Episode 2. Originally published on July 1st, 2012. I will read you a small excerpt. That word is going to be very difficult for me. A small excerpt from the About from one of the co-creators, Jeffrey Craner. The first thing I wrote for Welcome to Night Vale is the first paragraph of this episode. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but with a few years' perspective, it's interesting to note that my first take on Night Vale as a unformed concept was, let's visit this place. Like any first-time listener, keep in mind Joseph and I only had heard episode 1 at this point and had no roadmap for where it was going. Framed my experience of listening to Cecil, that's this whole podcast, maybe you should have done this at the beginning, this whole podcast was essentially an idea of it's being broadcast by a radio host in this small town called Night Vale, out in the desert, I think in the Nevada somewhere. I'm not from the US, so I'm not 100% sure of the geography, but it's in an unnamed state, I think, but the town is called Night Vale, so these are radio broadcasts from the local radio show host, and his name is Cecil. I will get back to this excerpt. Like any first-time listener, keep in mind, Joseph and I only had heard episode 1 at this point and had no roadmap for where it was going. Have I read this already? No, there we are. I framed my experience of listening to Cecil as a newcomer to town. I needed a kiosk of bubble-fronted brochures and one of those hand-drawn town maps with ads for local car repair shops around the edges. Lacking this, I created the Night Vale Tourism Board in hopes they could lead my way into this strange town. They could not. I won't spoil what this episode's really about, but I can read you the beginning text. These parts were always my favorite part of the episode because of how always unique and how weird they were. It was so, the strangeness of it all was very wonderful. The desert seems vast, even endless, and yet scientists tell us that somewhere, even now, there is snow. Welcome to Night Vale. The Night Vale Tourism Board's Visitable Night Vale campaign has kicked off with posters encouraging folks to take their family on a scenery-filled jaunt through the trails of Radon Canyon. Their slogan, "The view is literally breathtaking." They probably mean that literally, knowing this podcast. Posters will be placed at police stations and frozen yogurt shops in nearby towns, along with promotional giveaways of plastic sheeting and rebreathers. There it is. And now with the news. Have any of our listeners seen the glowing cloud that has been moving in from the west? Well, John Peters, you know, the farmer, he saw it over the western ridge this morning, said he would have thought it was the setting sun if it wasn't for the time of day. Apparently, the glow cloud in a variety of colors, perhaps changing from observer to observer, although all report a low whistling when it draws near. One death has already been attributed to the glow cloud. I really enjoyed this episode because the story of this particular episode is that this glow cloud comes in who literally rains cats and dogs. It's a bit gruesome. Well, they don't describe it gruesome, but the act of it is very gruesome. It becomes the head of the Parent-Teacher Association, I believe, and it just lives in their town. All hail the glow cloud. All hail the glow cloud. All hail the glow cloud. I have reached a minute mark I was not expecting to. ASMR really takes up time. But that's also wonderful. I feel like that might be a word I might repeat a lot. But I hope as I record more and I get more used to people hearing my voice, that they come to enjoy my ASMR, or at least my attempt at it. And I hope that also through that I can gain more confidence, if maybe only in videos, but maybe in real life it'd be nice too. I can read you another excerpt before it's fairly late and I should be getting to bed. I'll read you a bit of the first episode. I know I haven't gotten very far into this book, but I think I might use it more in the future. I have realized just now in recording that I did forget to turn on the ability to hear myself. So I hope anything in this video isn't too loud. I should have done that. I'm kind of kicking myself now, but I've got a good 19 minutes of audio and I don't want to scrap that, so this is rough ASMR at best. I lost my place. As a random bit of trivia fact, someone who voices one of the characters in what would be considered volume 2 of this, the character's name is the faceless old woman. She's voiced by Mara Wilson, who originally played, I think she actually played Matilda in the older movie Matilda. She was at a fairly large actually convention in my city, and I actually got her to sign this book. It was a little embarrassing though, because her character isn't actually in this book, but I didn't have the second book. She seemed fine with that though. She understood. I'll read you a bit of the pilot. A friendly desert community where the sun is hot, the moon is beautiful, and mysterious lights pass overhead while we all pretend to sleep. Welcome to Night Vale. Hello, listeners. To start things off, I've been asked to read this brief notice. The City Council announces the opening of a new dog park at the corner of Earl and Somerset, near the Ralphs. They would like to remind everyone that dogs are not allowed in the dog park. People are not allowed in the dog park. It is possible you will see hooded figures in the dog park. Do not approach them. Do not approach the dog park. The fence is electrified and highly dangerous. Try not to look at the dog park, and especially do not look for any period of time at the hooded figures. The dog park will not harm you. The dog park will not harm you. And now the news. Old woman Josie, out near the car lot, says the angels revealed themselves to her. Said they were 10 feet tall, radiant. One of them was black. Said they helped her with various household chores. One of them changed a light bulb for her, the porch light. She's offering to sell the old light bulb, which has been touched by an angel. It was the black angel, if that spins the pot for anyone. If you're interested, contact Old Woman Josie. She's out near the car lot. I'll read you every episode has a proverb. The first episode's proverb is, look to the north. Keep looking. There's nothing coming from the south. I feel a bit bad I haven't done more tapping. I know that's quite a consistent thing. The outer cover of this, it's not a hardcover book, it's a soft cover. But the outer cover I find very smooth. I know that's a bit of a weird thing to focus on, but mostly void, partially stars. I have to say, I think that's probably one of my favorite quotes of the entire podcast, and it makes me really happy that they chose that specific quote. I don't remember what episode it's from, unfortunately, but I'm really happy they chose that specific quote to use for the first title of the book. I think that's about it for this video. I have belatedly realized that I can only record 15-minute long videos, so I am going to be cutting this up. I'll put up the full thing on SoundCloud though, so if you want to listen to the full unedited bit, you can see it there. I I think I have my SoundCloud listed, or not listed, but I have my SoundCloud linked. That's what it is. Linked on my channel. Thank you for listening to me read from this book. I might use this idea in the future. So if people enjoy this, feel free to leave a comment. Or I always felt a bit silly whenever YouTubers ask people to like and subscribe, so I don't think I'll be doing that, but it just makes me happy to know that people have enjoyed listening to me. I've been told by all of my friends pretty much that I have a very soothing voice, because I like sending videos of like, oh, look at all these plushies I just bought. Like I just bought 3 today, but that kind of thing. So we'll see. Thank you for listening to this. This has been Eris ASMR, and I hope to see you in my next video.